Well, my name is Lieutenant Bobby Sanders of the Union Army, 53rd Massachusetts, Company A. We are in the Palatka, Florida area at the Bronson House, which was here during the Civil War. And we're discussing the end of the war whenever the Union Army moved back into Palatka, occupied it till the end of the war. And all the activities that went around the Palatka area was a lot more people realize. There was a lot more fighting going on around here than people realize. But what you have here in front of me is some of the items that would be used by the Union. I have a couple of captured Confederate stuff here to show. You know what they used to wear. This is a lieutenant's hat. This is the Confederate coat, the sack coat. But it was made into a lieutenant's coat because that's about all they had by the end of the war. This top jacket. Very few companies had very much more than what you have now. So I'll just go over some things with you, point out what they are. A lot of people don't realize what was used during the war and how really antique it was compared to the modern day wars. You know, we'll start with the main weapon that they used. This is an 1858 British Enfield rifle, 58 caliber. It loads one shot at a time. One at a time. You had to take the rifle, you had to open a cartridge, which I have cartridges in here. This is better. This looks more like the real stuff. This is a cartridge. The bottom of it is powder. Top of it is a 58 caliber lead ball. You had to tear the bottom off. This tag on the bottom right here. Turn it upside down, pour the powder in the barrel, then you had to put the bullet down in the barrel with this ramrod. After that, you had to come up, take the cap out of one of these cap pouches. It goes on his belt. Cock it back here, put the cap on there, and then you had to cock it all the way back, raise it, fire it. One shot at a time. These rifles are rifled. What they call it, have spirals in the barrel. These are the later model guns. These rifles are accurate for 400 or 500 yards. Somebody knows how to really shoot one of them.
When you say that you only do one bullet at a time, how long does it take the average person to reload it and a good person to reload it?
A good trained officer supposedly could fire 3 shots in a minute.
That's what 20.
That's moving. We've tried it. I've tried it. I've known the gunsmith guys that tried it, and they're really good with these guns, and they can't do it. Yeah, can you imagine doing that under fire? Somebody shooting at you with live ammo? We can't do it with blanks, you know, when we do reenactment. This weapon here is what they call a brown best. Now this is really fancy. This one, you had a shell like this. You have to cock this back, pull the end off, pour a little bit of powder in this pan right here, pull this down, and then you had a flint. This is a replication of a flint. Then you still had to go up here, pour the powder down the barrel, ball in the barrel. That's the round ball. Like you go over here, and I'll show you that again later. And then this was good if you were really good with it, 100 yards, maybe. And then you have to cock it and fire it. Flint makes a spark on the prison, make a spark, fire the powder, goes through the powder hole, comes out here. This was even slower to load. But this is not, there were some people that I've read that had these in the beginning of the Civil War. That's all they had. These are left over from the Revolutionary War and prior to that. But this is what a lot of them had at the beginning of the war. That, a little old, what they call a 30 caliber squirrel rifle, which was a very small ball, short gun. That's what they went to war with, because they didn't have anything else. But over the occurrences of all the different battles, a lot of them come up with these guns, because Union guns were the same caliber. These this Enfield and the Springfield that the Union used mostly, the same caliber, the same bullet. So when the battles were over, the Confederate soldiers would pick up these rifles and the pouches and the ammo off the dead soldiers and use them. They take them and then they use them. My great-grandfather was one of them. My son has his rifle on his wall at the house. He used during the war. This is Springfield. He got it off from Yankee. You know, so that's the way they got their modern. And then gradually, as the war went on, the South bought weapons from England. That's where this British Enfield was really made. They bought weapons and ammo as the war progressed, and they had money they buy all this stuff. But at the very beginning of it, they didn't have all this stuff. The guys fought with whatever they had. A lot of them had pistols, like this one. This is a Colt Navy revolver. It was also a slow revolver because once you fired the 6 shots, you had to break it down, pull the cylinder off, and reload the cylinder. Put it back on. Not one of those kind like you slide in nowadays. That was a slow process. Most of the ones that carried these were officers. Lieutenants, captains, some sergeants were carrying them, you know, and all. But some of the enlisted people carried them also, because that's all they had, basically. Not that gun, that one rifle. This is a sample of a bayonet. The bayonet goes on that rifle right here. This rifle is basically a weapon, 3 different weapons. You have the rifle itself. You have the bayonet, which made it a long spear, sword. Then you had it as a claw. So you have 3 different weapons in this weapon here.
About how much do those weigh?
That one weighs 12 pounds. That's heavy when you carry it all day long. This is a sample of 2 different style carriers for the bayonet. This is the Confederate style mostly. This is the Union style. They both had both because they, like I said, they captured whatever they could get off of soldiers that were not going to use them anymore. And they used them during the war, whatever they could find. This is a Union canteen. It's blue. There's several different styles of this type of canteen. This is just a basic round canteen, metal. They had a wood canteen. Made out of wood. It was like a little barrel. Carry on their shoulder. They also had just plain tin ones with no covers on, just plain cheap tin, you know, thin tin. This is what they call a mucket. This is an eating, drinking utensil. They use this to eat food out of, to make coffee with. This is an all-around purpose thing. You can pick it up, put it over the fire, make coffee water out of it, you can eat out of it, whatever it was. Most of the armies had those, both of them. This is eating utensils. This is a sample of one style of plate, knife, fork, and spoon. Notice how only got 3 prongs on it and half small. Hard to eat with. Now let's go down the line here. This is a NCO sword. Corporals and sergeants carried this sword when they wanted to. They all didn't, but they could. They were allowed to. It's a lot different. It's straight, it's longer than the officer sword. And believe it or not, most of the swords were not edged sharp. The only ones that had the sharp edges were the cavalry swords, the long curved swords. Most of what this thing was used for, if it was ever used, was sticking. All it was ever used for, if it was ever used for then, or a club. Made a good club. This is an officer sword. Shorter, prettier, nice and shiny, got all kinds of decorations on it. But this is what most of the time what your officers carry. Lieutenants on up. This is a captured Union hat, a Confederate hat. This is a lieutenant's hat. This is actually one I use when I do that. Now this is another butternut hat, they call it. The butternut kepi. Forage cap. They could use this to collect stuff in. See how it makes a bucket? It's called a forage cap. Now this is just a basic Union kepi. It doesn't do anything to fit on your head. It don't, you know, you got to put your silver on it. This is what they call a powder spread. In here is where these were kept by the soldiers to carry. See in here, it's empty. Usually they had what they call tins in them. Tins like to hold the shells in. A lot of them got rid of those because it took too much time to get them out of the tin, because they had to take the tin out, the ones out of the back and all that. And most of the time, you won't find tins in the ones that the soldiers used, because it takes too long to do it. This is a common belt, waist belt. This one has a US buckle on it. I don't think it's out here, but anyway, I have CS buckles made the same way. There's CS on it. This is a sack coat, they call it. I've already gone over that with you, but anyway, it's a common all-wool, unlined coat. It's nice in the summer because it was still hot, but it wasn't as hot. But in the wintertime, if you didn't have an overcoat or something on under it, you're going to freeze. Because it's not very thick. Okay, and this is an authentic U.S. buckle. That was dug right here in this area. That fell off of the soldier's belt at some time. These are also authentic buckles. This is a South Carolina buckle. This is a Florida buckle. These are very rare. That buckle right there, I don't know what that buckle these were. There was only like 100 of them made. They're handmade. That's the first one I've ever found in the state of Florida. That was found down Hill, Florida. I think where it was dug from. Some of these battlegrounds we don't like to dig in. And a lot of them don't mind. So this is a pair of authentic glasses. I was told by my great-great-great-grandmother that this belonged to my great-great-great-grandfather. He wore them, leftovers from the war. This is the Army of Virginia buckle. This is what Robert E. Lee had. That was his group. 45-70 late war cased rifle. There's a late war. Right towards the end they come out with these brass casings like this on it. This is what they call this is actually a grape shot. This is like they use for cannon and all, whenever they fire. They load it in the cannon and it goes out. It's like a big shotgun shell. If you ever seen the movie Glory, you can see in that movie how it reacts. It takes out everything in its path, or wide. This is a 58 caliber mini ball. That's what goes in these guns. That's what comes at you whenever this fires. This is the way they packaged them. This is where they got them in the cases that they got them in. Come packaged like this, 10 in the box. They had to take them out and put them in the pouch to use them. Now, this is just an example of a lot of different weapons, different balls, different, there's some caps, there's 58 caliber balls there, there's a short carbine bullet, several different styles of bullets, there's pistol balls, belt pouch, buckles, all that stuff has been dug over the years. And this area, actually all comes from this area. A lot of it comes right in this area. But this stuff here all come out of those ingots.
Oh!
Captain J.J. Dickinson, which was the primary Confederate unit in this area, except for Palatka, he actually worked all over Syracuse, Gainesville. He was a cavalry troop. They went everywhere. They had a camp in the Ravine Guard called Camp Call. The first group that had the camp in the Ravine Guard was a Confederate group, military infantry group that was sent to Georgia. And they abandoned the camp. Well, now they abandoned it because Captain Dickinson moved into it. It was a good advantage point in the Ravine Guard. You could see the river, had high sides. If you put pickets up on top, see everything's going on around there. There's a road running down. See, the railroad track that's there now was the road at that time. It went all the way down to Brown's Landing. We'll get to Brown's Landing in a minute because that's another important battle district. This is an officer's gun belt. That's the extra pouch for an extra cylinder, the pistol. This is another pistol in there. This is an officer's buckle, Union officer's buckle here. And it's worn over your shoulder, around the waist. Sword will hang here, pistol will be on this side. This is, like I said, this all stuff all come out of ravine garden with the camp floor, camp crawl. A lot of it is just pistol balls, stuff. A lot of this stuff over here is bridle parts for horse bridles, stuff like that. There's a pipe bowl, part of an old knife, part of the caisson point, silverware, like that. This stuff here was found at a house a friend of mine was renovating over on Emmett Street, and they were redoing the inside of the house. Some of them old houses over here during the war. The city of Philadelphia on River Street actually ended where the old sawmill used to be, where the old furniture factory. The street right there, that was the end of Philadelphia. The end of Philadelphia, and here was 7th Street. That's where it ended. It was all woods beyond that. Philadelphia wasn't very big back then. But this stuff was found in the walls of the house that was renovated. Somebody had hidden in the walls ammunition, all different kinds. There's caps, there's live rounds. Those are live. These are all live rounds. They were hidden in the wall so nobody could find them. So he found them on the floor of the wall there. Now, I was talking about the railroad track, the road that goes to Brown's Landing. Dickinson, whenever was talking about the Columbine on the river, the Houghton, the Ottawa, and the Columbine all went downriver. Well, Dickinson got wind of this through a spy named Sola Sanchez.
Lola.
The Sanchez family lives in Palatka, and another house somewhere off of here. But they got involved with the Union Army here when they were here the first time, the second time, in 1864. And Sanchez overheard them talking about these 3 gunboats going downriver, looking for Confederate groups supposed to have been down there. Well, Dickinson had just not too long before that captured a camp at Wallaka and a camp at Saunders, Union camp. So they were hunting him, basically. That's what they were looking for, the guy that was doing this kind of stuff. So Ottawa and the Columbine offloaded Union troops here. Columbine was proceeding on down the river, and they were going to meet up down there somewhere, apparently. Well, Sanchez got wind of this and slipped out one night while the other 2 sisters of hers was entertaining the Union troops in here, feeding them, cooking, entertaining them. She slipped out and made her way to Dickinson's camp and informed him what was going on. She watched the other overheard in here. Well, Dickinson acted. Crossed the river, went down to Brown's Landing, put up, he had 2 cannons of Milton Light artillery out of Ghost Tower with him. They set up on the banks across from Brown's Landing, at Brown's Landing, across from the mouth of Dunn's Creek. So when the Ottawa and the Houghton got there, Columbine had already gone down. When the Ottawa and the Houghton got there, they stopped at the mouth of Dunn's Creek for the night. Lit their boats off. Bingo. Wide open target. And of course, they can cut loose on them with them cannons. They disabled the Ottawa. He was disabled for 30 hours. Couldn't move, couldn't do nothing. And the Houghton turned and come back this way. Run, basically. Well, the Columbine had already gone down the river. Now, they'd already gone past a place called Force Landing right now. It's the Boys Ranch. That's the actual side of where the Columbine was hung at. The river right behind the Boys Ranch. Well, they went down. Dickinson left there and went down that same road and went on down. Went all the way out through the woods and out there to the ferry there at Force Landing. There was a ferry there at one time. And it waited on Columbine to come back. Well, supposedly Dickinson, according to what he said, he climbed a tree on the bank of the river and watched for them to come. But when he did, he had his same two cannons set up on the bank of that river. And where the river makes a bend, it comes straight and makes a sharp bend right here, and it puts the boat broadside when it gets here. So you've got to come around and come broadside and go up the river. So when he did that, they fired on it. The first round took out the wheelhouse and the steam stack. Disabled the boat. Couldn't steer it, so it run aground. There was a big sandbar out there, and it run aground on the sandbar. Well, in the meantime, all the Dickinson sharpshooters were picking off these soldiers off the boat, shooting at them, shooting a lot of them, wounding them, killing them. They captured a lot of them. And make a long story short, after the battle was all over with, Dickinson got on the boat, took what they needed off the boat, took a small rowboat type boat off the boat, used that. And then they set fire to the boat to keep the Ottawa coming down and reclaiming the boat, getting it back again. They couldn't use it, so they set it on fire. It actually sunk right there behind the board on that sandbar. It was there for years. I know a lot of guys that dove on that boat after we got stuff off of it. Artifacts and stuff. Well, you know, Dickinson was called swamp farmer. He fought guerrilla style. Back then, guerrilla style, you know, it's not like it is now. But back then, they'd fight, they'd run into the woods, get lost, because nobody could find them anymore. So they started calling him Swamp Fox. Another nickname the Union had for him was Dixie. They started calling all this land Dixie's land around here. But he was very active. He fought the Battle of Gainesville, went to see Keys, he's done all over the place. Every time he heard of a Union action going on anywhere, he goes, see them. They're gone. You know, they won't go down there. But he was everywhere. So, anyway, back in 1864, and this house was occupied by the Union troops, they stayed here to the end of the war. They occupied this whole town until the end of the war. And they come back the last time in 1864. But the Ottawa and the house brought those troops off here. That's the ones that were here to stay. They stayed, took over the house, stayed here, and so a lot of stories about a lot of big shot generals and all coming here and doing whatever they did here. You know, I don't know, but they, you know, stayed here to the end of the war, and then when it was all over with, they moved on and abandoned Pulaski, and then slowly but surely the people started coming back. Miss Bronson here, she stayed here in this house after I died in 1852, I think, she stayed here until the war started, and she went back to New York. She didn't ever come back. So the house kind of was taken over by the people of the Pulaski area property. It was attributed to him from the people in town anyhow. The two families that gave him this land to use. And actually this was a big orange grove at one time. And planted oranges all around this house. And it was a big active working orange grove. And then of course the war started and that all kind of went away. And she left and went back to New York where they come from, and then they come back. And the house is still here. But it's taken over by, like I said, by the people like taking care of, watched over. Stony Point is not like it used to be back then. The stories also have it that the Union, before the Union come in, after the war started, Confederate soldiers used the third floor and windows to watch the river. Back then, all them trees would have been there. Of course, if they were little. And also the stories later on, that when the Union got back here in 1864, they used the windows also to watch the river. So the house had a purpose for them to watch what's going on. Now, I don't know what else that I can say about this stuff, this area, other than, you know, I do both. I do Confederate, I do Union. All my ancestors, I had 5 of them in the war. They were all Confederate. I don't mind it. I tried it. But they all fought Confederate. Thankfully, none of them were killed in the war. One of them got wounded at Sharpsburg. But the rest of them made it through the war without any problems. And I like doing reenactment. a lot of fun. It's getting to be here lately more, I don't know, forgotten. A lot of reenactments have been canceled, and I know because all that's going on, around here. But if anybody ever wants to get involved in it, they can contact me, and I'll put them in touch with my captain or my lieutenant, first lieutenant. And we have a lot of clothes that belong to people that want to get into it the time they can come try it out. We put them in uniform. I'll train them. I'm the training officer for both companies. I'm the provost guard for both companies. I take care of all that kind of stuff. I work for the sheriff's office. I'm the cop for the company. So, but the history and Palatka is stuff that people don't even realize. There's so many people that don't even know where the Bronx House is. They don't have any idea what it stands for, what it was, what it is, who brought it here, who built it. They don't have any idea of the history of the Civil War in this area. So, a lot of that kind of history people don't know, don't realize. It's caused a lot of trouble over the years, but that's history. Trying to do away with history now, apparently. So, we're trying to keep it alive. Hope we can. Like I said, if anybody is interested, I can get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with the right people to get involved in it. One of my senior officer will have the stuff that's known, my captain and my assistant. So, other than that, I don't really have anything else too much to talk about. That happened in this area. There's a lot of stuff happening in this area. A lot of stuff you don't realize. Like the 7th and Reed Street now, where the end of Palatka used to be, there was a redoubt there. You don't know that. Don't realize it. You don't know that. It's in writing. I can pull it up and show it to you. It had one cannon in it, watching the west side of Palatka. And stuff like that. It's just stuff, tidbits that make it all come together, but people don't even understand it, don't realize it, don't know it's there. They don't study it anymore. They don't study history. I love history. I've always loved it. And I used to do, before I did this, I used to do the fort over in St. Augustine. That's another part of Confederate history from this area. Because Sanchez's daddy was accused of being the spy by the Union Army. They put him in prison over at Fort St. Augustine. This is Fort St. Marcus in. And so that made this one Lola took over his place. But he wasn't the spy. She was. So finally one of the other sisters went over there a year or so later and talked to him and turned him loose. Convinced him that he wasn't a spy. So they turned him loose. Two girls kept on entertaining the Union that was here in 1864 and kept feeding J.J. information of what they were going to be doing. That's how they knew where they were all the time. Like I said, it's just some little tidbits of history. It's in the books. You got the history books about the Civil War. There's a lot of them out there. The best one that talks about J.J. Dickinson in this area is a book called J.J. Dickinson, written by his wife, supposedly. But you can tell in the book reading, he told her what to write. She just wrote the book and penned the name on it. But I have a copy of it. It's in the public library out there. You can buy them online. History books out there. You just got to get them and read them. I don't know what else there is to say about this area. So, pretty much covered what happened. I'm glad to come talk to any group that wants me to come talk to them or bring stuff and show to the kids at school. I hope this video gets in the schools so the kids can see what Civil War history actually is.